before I show you how to adjust the spine, one of the things I want to teach you is the tissue pull. And so let's just act as if this person has a lot of hair. You always want to do everything in the same motion. So one of the things I do is I like sweeping this way and taking the earlobe, the bottom of the ear, and just pull it. See how the tissue pulls? And so now when I do that, I take my chiropractic index finger and I palpate off the mastoid just till I feel it shift right off into the soft tissue, go a little bit more inferior, and right there is the transverse process. Here's one of the big mistakes, is a lot of people will palpate, they'll either get too close to the mandible, and if you do, you get right in between there, and that's the styloid process, and boy, you can trigger a coughing reflex. Some people adjust near there and they'll break them off. Just know how to palpate. Again, sweep, palpate straight down, there it is. And the tissue's pulling, you can see that, that's why my dot is moving, because I'm pulling the tissue, but as I come down this way, there's it. So now I take my index finger and switch it. See how I never stop with the tissue pull? Sweep, drag down, make your contact, switch fingers. Now palm up and roll right on top of the nail. Palm up, roll, and make your contact. Again, understand that when you do the tissue pull and you roll your hand in, that contact hand, the nail hand if you will, should not move. If it moves, you're going to slide off your point of contact. Don't do that. Once you roll in, you're on, don't move. Now your hammer hand, that one is going to set up the plane, if you will, and I'll go over that right now, of how the atlas angle is. Remember, I said the right elbow should be on one side and the left on the other, and they're matching the plane. If the atlas has shifted this way, then why wouldn't I put my arms left elbow, right elbow, and matching the same plane? I think of it like if I were to lay a long yardstick across here, my arms should be on this plane, not this plane, or not this plane, not over down this way, not standing above. No, I want to match the plane of how the atlas is shifted, the shape of the atlas, so I am becoming one with that bone as it's moving this way. Now, roll up the tissue pull, so I just showed you. Slide your contact, switch. Now watch my elbow. The elbow is important. I come down low, rotate up, and I drop. My elbow doesn't move. That's the plane. Anterior tubercle. The other hand opposes that, matching that plane. Doesn't come up high, opposes it, and my episternal notch, now my notch can be above or it can be below, depending on the line of drive I want to have. But when I do that, notice my arms should not shift, because that's where I can stand over here, doesn't matter. My head can move, my shoulders can move, my elbows never move, because I want to match the plane of the atlas. What's so interesting about adjusting the spine and understanding the intention behind the adjustment is to truly understand the mechanism of the toggle recoil. And the toggle, of course, is the arms. Toggle, the recoil is the atlas. So I'll explain that to you. This table, this side posture table here this mechanism came out in 1951. And it came out in 1951 because this guy named Thompson went up to this other guy named Palmer and said, hey man, I have a cool idea. And they invented the PTA table, Palmer-Thompson Adjustment Table, part of the HIO one, Poland-1 that is. The atlas, as unique as it is, sits in a certain position. But before we talk about the atlas, the setting up of the spine in the proper fashion is absolutely imperative when it comes to this adjustment. Foramen magnum, or the occiput itself, should be flush with the table. Therefore, the table and the skull, the head if you will, act as one unit. See how they move as one unit? Your shoulder sits further down, so therefore it's like sleeping at your side, nothing supporting the neck. The atlas vertebrae, as it rests, sitting in this abnormal position, again, you know that because of the neurologic exam and all the other exams that you do, but once you've confirmed the misalignment, let's just say that this person's spine is subluxated to the left-hand side. And so now, the atlas, as it sits in a certain position, there's got to be a way of shifting this bone that leaves really no pain and no discomfort. The adjustment should be an invitation to innate. And so now, as this moves, what you want to do is elevate the head on the table here. So what I mean, the table is elevated, and you shift this bone according to the misalignment on the x-rays. So the vertebrae can be sitting in a certain plane, therefore your hands and your arms should mimic that. But when I shift that bone, what happens the instant that bone begins to shift, let me move my hand, the instant that bone begins to shift away from its subluxated position and